Thank you, everybody, for joining us today with Coffee with the Chairman. We have Bill Covaleski with us and Jim Fris, as Bill's waving. And Jim will be heading this up. He is a past chairman, and he will be talking with Bill a little bit about his past year and this upcoming year. And please mute your lines during this presentation, but we would encourage you to ask questions at the end through the chat feature, or however it is that you would like to ask questions. We're free to answer questions after Bill and Jim are done. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to you, Jim.
Thanks. Appreciate it. So, Bill, you know, they sent me a script, and you've known me probably 20 years, so you know I can't follow a script. So, there'll be I'm just getting you ready for the curveballs that I may throw a little bit here, because it's just no fun to follow a script, you know.
Yeah, May doesn't sound like the correct word choice there, Jim.
We're here to have a little bit of fun. All right.
Yes, we are.
And you're a fun guy. I think that's the most important part of being the chairman here, is we got somebody that's not only extremely dedicated to our industry and just a regular good guy, but you're a fun guy too. And I think so. Let's have a little fun with this morning and get this off and rolling.
Excellent. Appreciate it, Jim.
So, Bill, before we get into the nuts and bolts of PRLA, you know, above all, you're a founder of Victory Brewing. You're a brewmaster. That's what it's all about. The iconic Victory brand that we all know and love. Tell us about how it all started, and take us for there. Not everybody here knows the story, so let's hear the story.
Sure thing. I appreciate that question. So back in 1979, I was pressed into service as my father's apprentice as he started to homebrew. It became legal under the Carter administration. The 21st Amendment somehow overlooked home brewing as an option for folks. And my dad was a super industrious guy. He was an avid gardener, pickler, canner, sauerkraut maker. He was born in 1932, so he managed some very lean times, which made him quite resourceful. So at any rate, you know, with 3 kids in the house, he needed some delicious diversion. So he started home brewing. I became his bottle washer, his apprentice and everything. And then after graduating college in 1985, I had a somewhat different appreciation of beer. And I had an interest in creating new beer flavors. So I gave my best friend Ron a home brewing kit in 1985 for Christmas. And I was playing around with my dad's kit. Ron was first to go professional. He took a job with the Baltimore Brewing Company in 1989. And then when he vacated that position to study brewing in Germany, I took the position, worked at Baltimore Brewing Company from 90 to 95, did my German training at the Domens Institute in 1993. And then on New Year's Eve of 93 to 94, we successfully convinced our wives to let us write a business plan for our own brewery. We had opened up a couple bottles of strong Belgian ale prior to that. They agreed, and we were off to the races. So at that point, you know, Ron and I had known each other since we met on a school bus in 1973 at the ages of 10 years old in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. So by 1994, we had a pretty good sense of what we could rely on one another for.
Wow, great story. So
all true.
As we get to where we are today, things have changed a bit in the brewing business. There's lots of giants that seem to have gobbled up others. What is Victory's niche now, and where does it go from here? We know you're all across the country in grocery stores and that, but we know you got a new brew pub coming up in Center City, Philadelphia, that's highly anticipated by everybody in Philadelphia. Is that on a little bit of delay due to COVID, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so the Philadelphia operation, which is very appropriate, located at 1776 Ben Franklin Parkway, a very victorious location. That should be early third quarter of this year. We did actually hit some construction delays related to the pandemic, totally understandable. But yeah, we are on track for that and we're looking forward to it. So the tap rooms is an important part of our business, but as you pointed out, Jim, we're across the country more or less. We're in 35 states. And we had taken our little notion and had grown it to the 28th largest brewery in the United States by production volume by 2015. And in 2016, the way the industry was evolving, you pointed out yourself with mergers and the world's largest brewers getting in and purchasing breweries. Ron and I recognized that structurally, it would be best to have some partners to go forward rather than go it alone. We saw craft beer in a consolidating mode because we wrote our business plan when there was only 462 breweries in the US, and now there's 8,400. So that was the genesis of Artisanal Brewing Ventures, where we joined together with Southern Tier Brewing Company. 2 years later, added our friends at Six Point Brewery into the fold, and then late in December 2019, we brought in the Bold Rock folks from North Carolina and Virginia. So we have a great cider, hard tea, hard lemonade, and it's really a great interactive group of people with a full suite of beverage solutions. And we feel very confident that this is the right company to be for the marketplace ahead.
Well, that's great, and congratulations to you and all your partners, because it's such a well-respected brand that we all know and love. So let's get into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of a PRLA. You got the unexpected changes your first year as well. Actually, your second year, you were the treasurer, and then you moved into vice chairman, and immediately the chairman gets transferred to Georgia, and bingo, you're chairman in arguably the most challenging time in history of our business. So give us a little how you managed to keep up with everything and stay positive through this incredible ordeal.
Whew. Well, as you well know, Jim, I mean, all of us who choose hospitality as a career are compelled to serve the interests of a community well beyond just ourselves, right? And we accept our opportunities to serve, though we can't always control the timing and the nature of those opportunities. So, you know, when your turn is up, it's time to perform, right? I manage with all the tasks because there has been an incredible teams of infinitely talented people at my side, both at the PRLA and at Victory Brewing Company. And I think, as you well know, success is a team result, right? The lean crew we have here at PRLA has been so willing and capable throughout this pandemic. It's been amazing, the adversity and pivots that everyone has so naturally worked around. And I pointed out a lean team too. You know, we're really working with the minimum and achieving the maximum. So what PRLA team is delivering is extremely energizing and encouraging to me. But
you know, have a standard joke from time. Well, actually, it's my joke, but for those of you who are a little older, there used to be I guess you would call him president of Haiti, called Jean-Claude Duval, and then he called himself president for life. So we always say when we get a time to time that Bill's chairman for life right now.
Well, I mean,
unfortunately, that makes me immediate past chairman for life, so we both get burned. You know?
I'm dragging you along for the ride, and you're doing a great job of it.
I laugh when that happened to Steve Musiano years back, you know, and the same thing happened to him, and we laughed at him, and then I shouldn't have laughed because bingo, the same thing happened to you and to me. Yeah,
that's the nature of it. You laugh and you're tricked by fate. You know, in order to maintain a positive, you know, mindset throughout all of this, my trick is to try and rely on focus. Okay, I focus on actions and away from emotions to the extent possible. I mean, you yourself and everybody in the PRLA community that knows me a little bit probably would agree that I'm an optimist by nature. But it certainly didn't take 25 years of business experience to put a realist mentality into me either. That came pretty quickly. So for me, the fulcrum between these two opposing mindsets, optimism and realism, is stoicism, the ability to, as dispassionately as possible, accept the conditions and look for opportunities to improve those conditions. So it's really from that point of view where I get my peace of mind in order to carry on. And a Stoic's view is, sort of something of a big picture perspective. And in that, you diminish the emotions of the moment. And especially in this year, that's been continual crises, when anxiety or fear could cause you to make the wrong decision at the wrong time. That middle ground mindset has been really very helpful to me.
Well, speaking of decisions, there's been a lot of decisions that you were actively involved in. And I'm sure everybody out that's listening wants to know, what's it like to get on the phone with the governor?
Well, you yourself know as well, Jim.
I know it, but I want everybody else to know, and I think you'd be a good one to articulate it to.
Okay, so I'll give it to you straight. I mean, and you can counter me if you found it differently, but the governor is a very personable and disarmingly so on the phone. He can very easily make you feel like you're buddies. And then later on, you get really frustrated with the actual results of the conversation, perhaps. But maybe that's the skill of a politician, to put people at ease, give them a sense of comfort and well-being, and whether or not they're able to deliver on that, that's you're off the call at that point. So what's the matter?
I always said, Bill is for everybody out there, Bill is very, very good on the governor's calls. He speaks just like he speaks today, very soft-spoken and very articulate. And there was a call with the governor's staff one day, and Bill wasn't available. And Carrie Lepore, who's running the governor's staff for us in that meeting, comes on, and the first thing she says is, "Oh, Bill's not on. I guess we have to deal with Jim today." I was like, wow, that was a slap in the face to get off and running.
Yeah, we did the good cop, bad cop thing pretty well.
Oh boy. So, Bill, it's been a challenging year, obviously, serving as the chairman. And to give us some of the real challenge. What have been the most challenging parts this year?
Well, the most challenging part has been the lack of control over, of course, both the virus and the mitigation actions that our industry has been subjected to. I was very proud of where we were at the PRLA in early April as we formed a team of 22 and made recommendations to the governor's team. We had a great dialogue and working relationship going with the Wolf administration. As a business advisor to the administration, we were able to achieve outdoor dining in the yellow phase, which arguably could have been a revenue lifeline that's sustaining some of us today in this very difficult winter. So there was a lot of, hope that we were going to be able to manage both the administration and the virus. But bad actors, other opinions, more powerful forces came to bear on us, and our industry didn't get everything we wanted out of the situation. And as our president and CEO, John Longstreet, often reminded me as we worked side by side advocating for our industry, even on days we felt like we were achieving something, he would still say, Bill, we get paid for results, not intentions. And it was always like that crack of the whip that yeah, absolutely. We need to deliver results. And so that's been really sort of the most disappointing aspect of this past year, is not being able to deliver the results and keep us open as an industry as to the level that I think we should have been open. The only other real negative is not a small one, and that is the emotional impact that this pandemic has had on all of our members, our peers here at the PRLA. The suffering is real, and the suffering is something I strive to ease, and that's one of the things that gets us up in the morning and puts us back into action.
Well put. I mean, I think we all have team members, and it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant with 2 team members or a restaurant with 2,000 team members. Every single person suffered, and that's been extremely difficult on everybody.
Yeah.
Well, let's As we move off the challenges, there had to be some gratifying parts this year. So let's hit some of the more gratifying parts of your tenure.
Well, lots of Zoom time with you is certainly a benefit. That's been a real silver lining. No, I mean, otherwise, I would say the fact that we are here today, that we're still standing, enjoying this moment together, that's gratifying. That's a demonstration that we have the intelligence and the grit of survivors. And that means a lot. We should give ourselves credit for that, pat ourselves on the back. Our endurance is encouraging to me each and every day. And I feel like, it's brought us to this healing phase where everything is sort of upside. I had an experience in 1987, which reminds me of this moment. I was on my bicycle and on this tricky intersection, I had a head-on collision with a truck. And I recall lying on the side of the road and marshaling my energy to sit up. And I was overwhelmed at that point with a positive sense of gratification because I was thinking, okay, my spine is intact. I'm good to go. Nothing's really wrong. And then I looked down at my feet and my left foot, was upright as it should be. And my right foot was, lying flat on the ground, the victim of a compound fracture. And I remember thinking still, with this sort of elated sense of well-being, I said to myself, well, we can fix that. The paralysis we wouldn't be able to fix. And I think that sort of weird perspective is with me today, in that everything bad that has happened has maybe damaged us, but we are still standing and we have the chance to heal, and we will.
If you extrapolating a little deeper into that, if you look at the PRLA as a whole, and a lot of changes happened. Unfortunately, we lost team members because we had to downsize as an organization. Right. But the interesting part is we gained members, and we got members. We all thought membership was going to come to a screeching halt, and bingo! All of a sudden, a lot of people realized the value of PRLA. What do you think brought was it panic? Was it just they didn't know before about PRLA? Was it because they were in a crisis? What brought these new members on?
It was the content that we delivered. I mean, we were such an accurate and rapid resource for information that all operators needed. And, we had always been doing that, but at a different pace. And the demand for that information was coming at a different pace. We didn't have the health threat that impacted everyone. So, I mean, in essence, the fact that this virus impacted everyone in hospitality was galvanizing. It really brought focus to the value that PRLA had been delivering all the time. And this is not to underestimate or underplay the amazing pivots and focus that our communications team did. We completely focused all energies on being that resource of information, and it was the right thing to do. And Jim, you touched on something, and for us as operators, the past year has been extremely challenging, but for us as an organization, for myself as chairman and you as past chair, now we actually have to make this new revenue model, this new membership model work. And we're off to some very positive results, some organic growth, but we and everybody on this call have to continue to remind people of the value of PRLA, because there will be a time when this virus is beat, and do we get forgotten about? We can't allow that to happen.
For sure. Bill, you've committed a huge amount of time to PRLA, and not just this year, but every year. And you've always been in a variety of different leadership positions. Why is PRLA so important to you?
Wow, it's almost hard to unpeel that onion, but I guess because the PRLA is a community where we solve the challenges that we have in common, things that affect us all, challenges that really would be beyond any of us individually, I feel a certain level of comfort within that pack, right? We're all protecting one another. And so there's that aspect of it. I gained confidence in the prospects of my own business, knowing I'm in literally the same boat as others and we're all working together, rowing against the challenges. Um, Another factor is, of course, the exchange of ideas that PRLA provides, the forum for you and I to share business, information with one another, operational information. When I got into this years ago, I knew a whole heck of a lot more about brewing than I did restaurant operations. So selfishly, I was here to learn and from my peers. And I strive every day to give back in terms of, what I have to offer for others. And then I guess lastly, it would be, the positive influence we can have on one another as we remain engaged with one another. Think about where we were in July when a few rogue actors caused us to be shut down on July the 15th as an industry. That could have been a much worse situation, I think, if collectively we within the PRLA weren't encouraging everyone to do our best for public health and operate safely. So I feel that, this collective herd does a great job towards community stewardship and public health simply by keeping everyone sort of together on the same page, so to speak.
I think that's a great answer. The sharing of information that you probably would never expect to be, that people are so willing to share.
Right.
Has really been in the 10 or 11 years I've been here. For those who don't know, I got what I thought was, I guess Bill came to me like 10 or 11 years. I think it was 2010. We had just opened our Downingtown location. Bill said to me, "Hey Jim, would you mind coming sitting on my board at the Brandywine chapter meeting?" I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." I didn't realize that his ulterior motive was to get himself off as the president and finagle me into it within a matter of like 18 months.
Yeah, you were a very successful recruitment, Jim, for sure.
Payback was how they call it, payback's a bitch, right? I turned, as soon as I got to be chairman, I turned that right around. I got him right on the board. Now you're sitting in the top chair.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out, right? The hot potato returned to me.
Well, that's what they tell you. They tell you when you take this job, that the treasurer job, you got to work on the numbers. It's really, it's time where you really got to pay attention. And then when you're the vice chairman, you shake hands and kiss babies. And then when you're the chairman, you got to be serious. There's a lot going on. And then you get to be past chairman, you go back to, shaking hands and kissing babies. But somewhere the pandemic took the shaking hands and kissing babies out.
You'll get there, Jim.
So Bill, you're the chairman of the PRLA. You operate a significant company. You devote a substantial amount of time to your charitable activities. Additionally, you have a family as a prime focus. I'm constantly hearing from people who say that they don't have time to help, and yet you always seem to have time for the important things. How do you juggle it all?
Wow. Would it be too simple to say that I have my priorities?
I think you do have your priorities. You have a lovely life. You got two beautiful daughters. And every time I talk to you, I get a good story about all of them. But I know how hard you work, and I know what you got going on at Victory. And I've sat in your chair and I've worked alongside you in this mess for the last year. So there is some tricks to juggling that. Share some of those tips with the crew here.
Yeah, you're probably going to think I'm no fun whatsoever, but I use some things to illustrate my priorities. I have never watched an episode of Seinfeld. Seinfeld ran when I was writing my business plan and, then executing it. And then I was 2 years into my business when the show was off the air. I've never personally engaged with Facebook. Never thought it was a good use of my time. I don't really even know how fantasy football works. I've just never investigated it. So I guess I've prioritized my time differently. And, I know I've made myself out to sound like a antisocial dullard, but there's just, when you strip away all those pursuits that you can occupy your time with, you find that there's a chunk of time that you can focus on things that are more gratifying to you. And so I guess I've just prioritized my time a little bit differently.
Well, if you, there's nothing wrong with not knowing how to do fantasy football. There's nothing wrong with not spending time on Facebook. But listen, you got to have some things that you enjoy. I mean, I see pictures of you off in the woods picking up mushrooms. I see and just because you don't use Facebook, I want to say it's Instagram where I see
Instagram,
you.
yeah, a product of Facebook,
Enjoying
true.
a different brew or two with some really nice meals.
Yeah.
I see you traveling all over the world back when there was non-pandemic time with your wife and lovely daughters. So there's got to be something that gives you that relaxation time. And can you put PRLA and Victory off to the side when you're off with your wife and daughters and enjoying a vacation?
I can, Jim. That is really one of my wife's incredible skills is, booking us on great vacations that pull us together and leave the devices behind. There was a period of time, 5 years in a row, where we chose to take Thanksgiving weekend and go abroad for very practical reasons. Like nobody in the airports are going out of country. Everything's domestic, right? So the volume situation is in your favor. The pricing in Europe was really good in late November. So we did, oh gosh, it was Barcelona first, Rome, London, Paris, and 4 nights with a family, learning new subways, new languages, just immersing yourself in the museums and such. It is a perfect way to like get a quick glimpse of that city and decide whether or not you're going back there. And it's a real great refresher, and it really does take me away from things. But there's others more practical escapes. I love to spend time on my bicycle. We've got fantastic roads here in Chester County, and that's a great way to free your mind up and get some exercise in. So yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of play in my life as well.
Yeah, I knew you were schnookering on when you were telling them that you were antisocial and that you got a lot going on and a lot of fun things going on at the same time. So Bill, leadership is the key to any top position, and you're a proven leader. What in your simple estimation, what are the top 3 characteristics you're looking for when you're looking for a leader?
Leaders for me need to be, first of all, good listeners, right? Because they need to assess the circumstances and situation and take the input that others are willing to give and, make some critical decisions about what is the opportunity here. And you can only do that by keeping your eyes and your ears open. And I think the next thing that leaders need to do is sort of be provocative, right? They need to provoke information out of people to sort of reach a consensus of the opportunity, figure out how to get from point A to point B. And that takes discourse and dialogue. So they not only have to listen, but they have to give back in order to, get that consensus going. And then I imagine the third thing really is action. If you do generate a great idea with your team, or your team expresses an idea and you've listened to it, you need to take action on it. Whether it's in immediate term, near term, something has to happen. You can't let that opportunity sit idle. So I think it's listening, interacting, and acting.
Yeah, I think the listening obviously is one that we've had to work, at least I have, this year, especially when we're on the calls with the governor and his staff. And I remember Bill said to me one day, I can't remember exactly how Bill's quote was, but Jim, I'm sure you'll use your tongue when you have to and bite it when when you need to.
And I recall that. Yep.
Some of those times I wanted to just let those people have it and you had to let them get their voices out. You had to listen to everything, and then you just had to take a deep breath. Say, okay, Jim, don't do it.
Do the smart thing, not the emotional thing.
Do we have any questions from our viewers? I didn't notice any come
Good
up.
questions, Jim.
Or
I'm not seeing any. Just that Steve, just a few are just saying that, that they had to get off and that everybody stay safe. I don't know if you guys can bring up the chat. I haven't seen any. If anybody has anything they'd like to ask, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question or go through the chat feature.
It's a great group of folks on the call. I appreciate everybody's time and attention.
You know, Bill, I ran out of my own questions now, so I finished the script, and so I don't have anything else here. Is there anything that you'd like to share with everybody before we call this a day?
You know, I did think of one thing. I often like to recommend reading for folks, right? Because we all grow from taking in new information. This book was really valuable to me. It's called Subliminal by Leonard Malovnov. And what it does is it describes how your mind works. He's a physicist, so he really shouldn't be writing a book like this, but he did great research. And, you know, some of the chapters, the importance of being social, remembering and forgetting, sorting people and things. You know, I don't think most of us realize that, for instance, and I learned this from this book, probably learned it in health class years ago, but for instance, there is a blind spot we all have in our eyes where our retina attaches to our eye. There's no cells to receive visual information. So literally all of us should be seeing like 2 black dots in our field of vision, but we don't, because subliminal, well, working at a sub level, our brain patches in that information. So we have a complete picture. And this book is full of, you know, stories like that, that made me really, you know, ponder how the brain works and how it affects the waking activities that we think we're in control of. It's a good book.
Interesting. We did get a question from Susan Hamley. So, you know, the question is, going into this year of 2021, what should we be focusing on, short term and long term?
Well, I think that the long term is trying to ensure the stability of operations, not only hospitality, but, you know, tourism as well. We can't overlook the fact that we need to get people to circulate, be comfortable with circulating. We don't have control over the virus, of course, but with vaccines being deployed, I think we as an industry can encourage people to engage in that and get healthy so that we can get back to normal activity. So I think the long term is kind of most important, because it's been such a panic year. We've been focused on short term, and I believe we can take sort of a pull back on perspective. You know, short term still remains the details of safe operations and communicating our safety. I think that there's a hesitancy, for good reason, perhaps. The public isn't necessarily, you know, wanting to come back in droves to support all of our operations, and we have to work together in order to ensure that everyone has the confidence in our industry. And again, I think getting back into that loop, it comes back to the vaccine and actual, you know, public health advancements. So I don't know, that question, hard to take all the parts apart.
Yeah, we'd all like to be able to say, hey, I believe we're going to do this number in 2021 and this number in 2022 and this number in 2023. But I think those are still moving targets, and it's not going to be an easy year. But I think, you know, it's a good advice to everybody to use the beginning of this year as a transition year and get some of those things you've always wanted to get done. Bill, it's been great spending some time with you this morning. You're a great leader, a good friend, and we at the PRLA and all the restaurants throughout the state have the utmost respect for you and your leadership, and we appreciate everything you do for all of us. So thank you for taking the time with us today to let us hear your perspective, not just on the PRLA, but obviously on life in general. And it was great talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your day today. And again, thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and cheers to Ellis Coffee for the long-term partnership and the sponsorship of today's event.
Thank God you got the
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Jim and Bill, for taking this time. And you've said everything I was going to see at the end. So I think with that, if nobody has any other questions, Cynthia Smith just said she agrees 100%. And thank you. I think you guys are just getting some great thank yous. And thank you for taking the time to talk today with our members. This has been a uplifting conversation. It's been fun to listen to you both go back and forth. So thank you so much. And thank you for everybody for joining us. I hope everybody has a nice rest of the week and stay safe.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Stay well. Bye now.
Thanks. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.